Welcome back to the Sens Spotlight podcast, brought to you by the Sick Podcast Network. And before we get started, bet the beauties with Betway and scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and download the app. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Betway is an official sponsor of your Ottawa Senators. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. That really helps out the show. And hit that hype button on YouTube. What a win for the Senators. Just Sanderson, Tkachuk, Stutz with the big three at it again. We're dominant over Tampa Bay, and the Senators are, inching closer to a playoff spot. Who would have thought? And plus, just going to talk a little bit about Linus Ullmark. He opened up with just about his mental health stuff to myself and a couple other reporters for the Masterton nomination. So we'll talk about that as well, and kind of what I saw and what he told us. So anyways, should be a fun show. Sens look like they're going to make the playoffs. So hit it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Sens Spotlight.
Here's Alfredson versus the speed. Gets a shot away. Score! Daniel Alfredson ends the game in overtime and sends the Ottawa Senators to the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in franchise history.
The sickest Ottawa Senators podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And we are joined by Pierre McGuire once again. Just what an emphatic win for the Senators. Just your initial thoughts.
Star players were good. Sanderson was good. Tkachuk was good. Stützle was good. Linus Ullmark was good. I know that you sat down and talked with him, but you put it all together. That's a high-quality win. And you need your best players to be your best players, especially key times in the game. And for Ottawa, getting Sanderson back was right at the right time. Especially when you look at all the decimating injuries they've had on the back end. Jake just showed you again last night just how good he is. He's really, really good.
Maybe it's just the homer bias for me watching him every night, but I think he's top 5 defenseman in the world, just overall in terms of how he impacts the game, because defensively he's 10 out of 10. And offensively, he's pretty darn good. And those 2 goals yesterday were kind of picture perfect.
I spoke about it in December. I thought that McGuire and he were the 2 best pure defensemen in the league, meaning offense, defense, transition, breaking the puck out of their own zone, carrying the puck out of their own zone, running the offensive blue line, all these different things, gap control in the neutral zone. I thought he and McGuire were the 2 best guys in the league. You can argue that Werenski is up there. You can argue that Quinn Hughes is up there. You can argue that Lane Hudson's one of the better guys, like Matthew Schaefer. There are a lot of guys you can argue. He's in that argument. He's in the argument, and that makes him really special.
Just when was the last time you saw a defenseman on a breakaway on a power play?
Probably when I had Paul Coffey. Might be the only one. I had Paul back in the early 90s. And he got a lot of breakaways because nobody could skate anywhere close to him. But I would say, that's for me, that would probably be the one time that I would remember.
And I feel like just having Sanderson back against, they play these 2 really good teams in Carolina, Tampa Bay. There's some, schedule effects, shall we say, just with, those teams not playing on the second night of a back-to-back with travel. But 2 really good teams, and the Senators could kind of roll with the punches. They could go pound for pound with these really excellent teams. And I think a lot of it is because you have Sanderson back, while before they were just trying to hang on for dear life. And now they can kind of take it to other teams. And I think if heading into the playoffs, which, it's, you never know.
They're making the playoffs.
They're making the playoffs. Thank you. You said it. I don't want to get blasted for it.
But. No, I'll say it. I don't care. And people can blast me all they want. They're a good team. They should be in the playoffs. I'm so proud of those kids. They dug deep. Their coaching staff's done a miraculous job to change their penalty kill in the middle of the season like they did and to have it work. That says a lot about, 1, the coachability of the players, 2, the ability of the players, and 3, the courage of the coach to say, you know what, our last plan wasn't working. We're going to change. And they did. And Mike Yeo deserves some credit. You haven't seen anything from Travis that's been negative. You haven't seen anything from Daniel that's been negative. Nolan Baumgartner hasn't been a negative guy. They gave Yeo that opportunity to coach the penalty kill, and he's worked really well with it. And they're better because of it. They're a better team because of it.
And you think heading into the playoffs, Ullmark's playing well, right? He's like, I thought he was really good last night.
He was.
Wobbly moment. Sometimes there's a rebound control where you're like, come on, don't do this. But otherwise, like what I find that he's tracking the puck really well.
Yeah.
It's going into his glove. The puck's dying. I find his glove hand's been really good. And that's to me a sense of, okay, he's finding his groove, right? And maybe that's a perfect segue. And we'll talk about Tkachuk. We'll talk about Timmy and the other. But I wrote a story for Sportsnet on Ullmark, who spoke to us because he was the nominee for the Masterton Award, which is kind of the description isn't necessarily kind of what the award is for, but it's kind of for people who have gone through a lot of heartache and kind of persevered. And Ullmark was really, you could tell, he literally said, I'm still broken. I'm not fully healed. I still have demons. And you could tell that he's still struggling with his mental health struggles that he dealt with in December and January when he took a leave of absence. Just to see him not only still be struggling and also to be performing the way he has, specifically the last week, really is a telltale sign to just how much he's gone through. And, I always think it's like, I know they're athletes, they get paid a lot, but no matter who they are, we all struggle. And just credit to him. And, he talked about the Tampa Bay game and basically said, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but he said he was struggling that day. You can read between the lines mentally, and that's why I didn't play, right? And so that changes the outlook and how you look at that game in retrospect. And you don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. But anyways, I just sending my love to him, and I'm just glad that he's playing well. He seems to be in a slightly better place, but still struggling, and he's been great for the Sens, which is always good too, just on the other side, and I'm sure helps as well with everything he's going through too.
I hope when a player goes to the rink, it's their happy place, because that's really what it should be. I've seen so many players who have either lost loved ones or have had really bad things happen to them in their lives. And the one thing they always say to you is, and it's common, it's been over the years, it's been over 3 decades for me. They all say the same thing: got to get to the rink. It's where I'm really the most happy. Got to be in the room with the guys. It's where I'm the most happy. And I hope that he gets some of that relief when he is at the rink, when he is playing, when he is sitting on the bench, when he is talking with his teammates. And if that's the case, that's only going to help him. It's not going to hurt him. I just want to say one thing about athletics with him. I watch him play, and I've been trying to put my finger on it for a while now. Who's he like? Who's he like? What goalie does he remind me of? And I thought long and hard about it, and he reminds me of Jeff Hackett. Jeff Hackett in the mid to late 90s was a really good goalie in the NHL. He was really good. He played on some bad teams in San Jose. He played on some good teams in Montreal, helped get them into the playoffs. But the thing that reminds me of Hackett, and you touched on it, we didn't rehearse it. Last night, Ullmark was reading plays really well. Were there some juicy rebounds? Yeah, there were a couple. That's maybe the one part of his game that needs to get tuned up a little bit. But when I watch him read the play, I think of Hackett. Hackett was, in his day, he was one of the smarter goalies in the league. He digested the play so well. And the difference between him and Ullmark right now, Hackett's rebound control was insane. It was so good. It was a huge part of his success because he digested the play so quickly and made the right reads and reacts. And eventually he ended up with the Chicago Blackhawks and had a stellar career. Jeff Hackett had a really good career. But I see Ullmark, and that's the goalie I think of.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I do that. It's an exercise I do. I try to say, let's go back and see what this player's like or that player. There's some guys you can't even compare. Like when somebody says, what's Lindros? Who was in Lindros didn't have a comparable. He was different. You know what I mean? Who was Mario's comparable? There was none. Like there's certain guys are just not. But in this case, there is one, and I think it's Jeff Hackett, and that's a good goalie. Jeff was a really good goalie.
And like if the goal, like he's been basically league average, a bit above since he's come back from his mental health leave. And you talk about him being a smart goaltender. I was talking to a goalie coach who coached him and Anton Forsberg, of all people, in Sweden as kind of rising youngster goaltenders. And he said, Forsberg tried his tail off, worked his tail off, but reading the game didn't come naturally to him.
Agreed.
And he said that Ullmark, it was like that. You tell him one thing and he understands it. He sees it. He's cerebral. You talk you talk the minutia of goaltending, and I've asked him a couple times about it. It's like, how do you what do you see there? What are you trying to think? And he can go into this like almost manuscript of like detailing just the finer tuned points of the art of goaltending. And so he reads the game at a super high level. And he's not the most athletic goaltender,
No.
but if you read the game, well, that's like, look at players on the Sens, like just as forwards, like Michael Amadio reads the game super well. He's not the fastest, he doesn't have the big shot, but he's a hell of a player, right? So your brain can catch up to your skill sometimes, and I think Ullmark's just a really
Bergeron's Exhibit A. He's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, he's not the heaviest, he's not the fastest. He doesn't have the best offensive shot. Man, what a player he was. What a player. What a player. It's all because of his ability to digest the game. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this, but I'll give you an example. When Corey Perry, Patrice Bergeron, and Sidney Crosby played together at the line at the 05 World Junior, that was crazy to watch, because there's one thing all three of them had that was off the charts compared to players in their peer group. They all could process the game amazingly well. Like, they were brilliant, brilliant players. Sid's still playing. Here we are 21 years later. Sid's still playing and Corey Perry's still playing. And I think if Bergie hadn't been hurt, he got hurt pretty bad and he played through a lot of stuff. If Bergie hadn't been hurt, I think he would have still been playing. Honestly, I really do. He's just such a gentleman too. So it just shows you, look, to your point, to build off it, Alex, hockey sense matters so much. And I think in this era of all the numbers, sometimes that gets lost.
For sure.
Sometimes
I completely agree. And it's funny, in the press box yesterday, someone's like, how is Corey Perry like still playing well at 41? I'm like, man, the guy knows how to play hockey. Like, he doesn't have to skate fast. He just has skill and knows how, like, that goal he scores is just being at the right place, reading the play.
Yeah.
Like, if you can do that all the time, you're going to get a bunch of goals. He's like, how does he have 38 points? I'm like, that doesn't surprise. I've watched enough Corey Perry with all these cup runs to know how good he is.
He's tough as nails too, by the way.
That too.
He is tough as nails.
And I will say, watching, Tampa Bay last night, and the Sens could potentially play them. If the Sens play anyone in the playoffs outside of Tampa Bay, I think they could go to the conference finals, or I think they can beat them just because of how well they're playing. Tampa Bay, I think the Sens could beat them potentially, but that's going to be such a hard out. I think they're the best team in the East. And at the same time, you just beat them, but they're missing a lot of bodies. You're missing bodies. So it's kind of not perfect resemblance to what the playoffs would look like. But that's the one team I don't want to play in the playoffs if I'm Ottawa. Everyone else, I really think.
Yeah, I agree. The big test would be Vasilevsky versus Ullmark.
Yeah.
That's a big mountain for Linus to battle. It's a big one. Like, it's not an easy mountain to climb. That guy's legit big time good. Sure. He's really good.
He's unreal. And don't look at his Game 7 stats. I would just say the one thing, I'm talking about Vasilevsky, to be clear. The one thing just on Ullmark, we kind of touched upon it. Like, he also said, like, I asked him, I'm like, how do you feel about hockey? Do you still love it? He said, I do, but there's other things in my life that sometimes take precedent, and hockey's right there with it. Basically, his kids, family, his own mental health. And I thought that was just an interesting thing, because he's talked about how he doesn't watch games, and he actually talked about that with us, where it's like, it's just too much sometimes. Like, he just needs to get away from it. So I don't know. That was just another kind of, not tidbit, but another thing that kind of gleaned out from our chat with Ullmark. But yeah, just wanted to maybe wrap it up with a bow on that, which he does wear bow ties sometimes. But just with Ullmark, like, again,
Bill Corey, the architect in New York, bow tie Billy.
Yeah, but I would just say, thinking of Ullmark, I'm really glad he's playing. I'm glad it seems like he's a little bit better, and he's still, as he said, fighting the demons. So, wishing him the best from our podcast, from Pierre, from all of us here at Sens Spotlight. But I do want to move on just to maybe Brady Tkachuk, because I thought he played an unbelievable game last night. That looked like the kind of the most fearsome version of Tkachuk, with all the assists, career high 4. Travis Green said, I asked him, I'm like, you put Tkachuk up with Stützle and Batherson. What made you do that? They haven't played together basically all year. He's like, Tkachuk was feeling it, and I thought he should play with them. So what did you make of his performance last night?
So that's an assist. I'm glad you brought it up the way you did. That's an assist to the coach. When you recognize, and this was the brilliance of Bowman, it was the brilliance of Al Arbor. We're talking about Bowtie Billy Torrey, and that's Scotty's era. And Al was an amazing coach. I coached against both of them, believe it or not. I worked with one of them. It's crazy to think about, but I had the honor of doing all those things. Yeah, the best coaches know when players are going, and they also know when players aren't going. And when a player's not going, you got to do hard stuff too, and you got to sit them down. I mean, I'll tell you a story from Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final in '92. I never talked to Scotty during the course of a game. I ran the D, he ran the forwards. We knew our matchups, we knew our times, we were set to go. And I remember going up to him in Game 4, and I said, Gordy doesn't have it tonight. And he goes, I don't care. You take care of whatever you got to take care of. I got to take care of this. Keenan and Daryl Sutter were on their bench, and Rick Keogh, Scotty, and I were on our bench. So I go to Gordy Roberts, and I said, Gordy, you don't have it tonight. And he got really mad. I said, you're going to sit out for a little while. And we got rolling, and I didn't play him. And we ended up winning the cup, and he was mad. He was really mad at me. And at the end of the night, it shows you how great really good hockey people are. The first person to come up to me on the ice was Gordy Roberts, and I thought he was going to punch me right in the mouth. And he said, you were right, and I was wrong, and I apologize. And he gave me this massive hug, and he said, thank you. And I said, no, thank you. And that just showed, like, he knew he was a pro. He knew he didn't have it going on. And I didn't want to be that guy that says, you don't have it. This is a guy that broke in playing pro with Gordy. How? Like, think about it. In the WHA with the Houston Aeros.
Crazy.
It's just unbelievable. So I recognized early on that he didn't have it, but I've seen Scotty and Al Arbor and even the late Pat Burns and all these great coaches. Their skill was to know when guys had it going on, to what you're talking about with Brady. And that's a very strong suit to have as a coach. When you can not so much, it's easy to see when a guy doesn't have it going on like I did. It's harder to see when a guy has it going on. Because if they have it going on, it's every shift. It's not one shift and then 2 off and then 1 shift and then 3 off. These guys, when they're going, they're going. And Brady had it going last night. I agree.
And I think when Green puts Tkachuk, Stützle, Batherson, that's almost like the nuclear option. That's like their version of McDavid, Draisaitl playing together. Obviously not of the same stature and skill, but of that vein where they're like, you know what? And I understood it, because in that game, it was getting muddied. It was kind of nip and tuck, and Ottawa wasn't creating enough. It was a really good kind of game in terms of stylistically, because both teams were playing really structured hockey. And Green's like, you know what? I'm going to turn it up another level. I'm going to kind of try to get something going. Spence scores that goal. Beautiful play by Tkachuk and Stützle. And then in that third period, get a bit of a lucky bounce on that Zetterlund goal. Tampa Bay was kind of dominating.
I'm happy Zetterlund scored, because we've been waiting for a while.
He played well.
He did, but they need goals.
They need goals. And then I think, after that goal, they just got into a rhythm and started kind of outplaying a tired Tampa Bay team. But I thought Sanderson on the power play, you are now seeing that. And the thing is, the Senators, they've been killing penalties really well, as you mentioned off the top with Baumgartner, moving out for Yo. And Baumgartner's done a great job with the defensemen like Thompson, Crotty. I thought have played really. I thought Crotty.
What a good story. We haven't talked about him. I'm so glad you brought him up, Alex. Cam Crotty, I watched him play at Boston University. I didn't see him play in Brockville, but I used to spend a lot of time going to watch the Brockville Blues play in the Central Ontario Hockey League, and recruited a lot of players out of there. We had a great player drafted by Hartford, Robbie White. We had another guy named Mike McCourt. We had a lot of good players out of Brockville back in the day. And so I see Crotty playing so well, and I'm like, that's such a good testament to that league and to college hockey in particular. And he's an Ottawa guy, which makes it even better. So happy for him. I'm watching. I'm like, this is cool. His family must be so excited to see this happening.
No, it was fun. We we both have a mutual friend with a buddy of mine. I won't shout out who, but I'm a good friend with one of his buddies. So I went up and we were talking about it. And then after the game, I just gave him a fist bump because he got his first career NHL point. So I was like, "Congrats, that's awesome!" And you could tell he was he was glowing.
I love that.
He was glowing. It was awesome, and great dude from Greeley, like just Ottawa tie-in. I thought he's played really well. I thought Thompson played really well as well.
What people don't realize, because you're a big man, but people don't realize Crotty's a big guy. Like he's a big guy, big, thick, physical guy.
And you know, I was talking. I think I can probably say I was talking to Cheryl Pounder about him pregame, just kind of shooting the shit with the media, and she was like, "I just love how he's never out of step. Like he's just in the right spot all the time, like that kind of stay-at-home defenseman." And I just find, yeah, just a cool story. Just like the thing with all these injuries is now you have guys thriving at the NHL level, which is always fun to see.
In the scouting business, the way Crotty plays is they'd say he's not a loud player. He's a guy that just does what he's supposed to do. You don't get to the net on him. You don't beat him up the boards. He's not going to make a lot of cute plays coming out of his own zone, but you're never going to notice him because he's not loud. You know, the loud guys are the guys that can just explode up the ice. Like Jake's a loud player. Jake Sanderson's a loud player. That's a good thing, but you can be a quiet player too and still be a good player. And Crotty's a quiet player that's very good.
And I think when you're coming into the league, when you know you're not the most skilled guy, being, as you said, quiet is the right way to do it. That's how you become I always think of like Dylan DeMello. He's almost like the perfect example, right?
He's a great example.
Who was great with Shabbat because he just kind of like Zub light of different players, but pretty similar too, where it's just like, I don't make mistakes. I do everything right. I'm in the right spot. I have great gap control. I just know what I'm doing. And it turns out to like a lot of wins. And
that's a good comparable.
Right?
That's really good. I like that one. I remember doing some of Dylan's first games in the league, and I think he was overwhelmed being on national TV. He was playing in San Jose then. It was pretty cool. He was so excited.
I never got to cover him, but I've only heard like I know like the Sens, like the people who did social media loved him because he'd do everything.
Yeah, well, he left just before I got there. So before I got there. But I had known him pretty significantly from San Jose.
Yeah. But cool. But I think just like wrapping it around to Tkachuk, like I find it's as the team's elevating into a playoff kind of type space, I guess, or making it in, hopefully. You can see he's getting energized by the crowd. He's getting up for the big game. He's feeling it. And I think if this, like with this team likely making it in, I just love their chances. And Shabbat, like we didn't talk about, he's now skating. I don't know how he's doing it. He had surgery like 2 weeks.
Time out. So I don't want to share too much because I don't want it to be gross, but I think I've shared with you. I've had that injury. I've had that surgery. Pretty similar surgery. And that's not going to be as easy as you think for him to come back and play. Now he could skate.
He was shooting the puck.
What's that?
He was shooting the puck yesterday.
Yeah, when he gets hit under duress, it's not going to be that easy. Just trust me on that. But I respect the heck that he's out there even trying, which is really good.
And I will say, he's wearing a non-contact jersey. It looks like they're making the playoffs. He's probably going to play game 1, if I had to guess. This is not reporting. That's another basically almost 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
And the original diagnosis was 4 to 8 weeks. You're closer to 4 weeks if he plays for game 1. So I'd be shocked if he plays.
You'll be lucky if he's back at 100% in 6 weeks. He may be back in 4 weeks, but he will not be 100%. And the doctors know this because when that bone breaks, it takes a while for everything to mesh, even though he had surgery, and it's really fragile, and it hurts. I've had it. It hurts.
I saw people calling him bionic. The other thing is, and shout out to Sens Twitter, they call him a horse. I don't really understand why. I think it's a part because he's like a horse on the blue line, like he takes up a lot of minutes, kind of thing. But
here's what I would say to the Sens Twitter people: he's an amazing kid.
Oh.
He's a really, really good person. He really is.
Did you ever get to know his dad at all? Because they're like,
No, I didn't. The only dad that I really knew, and it's only because I had coached when he was playing, was Batherson's dad.
mhm,
I obviously knew Tkachuk's father because I had him in hockey camp when he was 16 years old. And when, his draft year, I was just turning pro at the time. And we had drafted, a pretty good player, Jaromir Jagr, in that draft. But, I can tell you, Keith, Brady's father, I know people like to take shots because he never won with any of the teams he was with. You go watch those Winnipeg games when he was out there. And, especially when Solani was there, those guys were a problem. Like, especially in old Winnipeg Arena, those guys were a big problem. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
And we went in there a bunch of times. We were successful. We were. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I don't remember losing in that building. I mean it sincerely. We may have, but I don't remember losing there. But I can tell you what, like, if you didn't have a plan for Big Walt and for Timu in particular, and back then they had Phil Housley too, like, you had a problem going into that rink. Like, that was a hard place to play.
mhm.
Really hard place to play.
And I think the Canadian Tire Center is going to be a tough place to play. I think it's going to be crazy. I keep getting more people being like,
and I want to salute them, by the way, because again, we don't rehearse this show, but you can feel the energy through the screen when you're watching at home. And I've obviously been in that building so many times, and it's nice to see that. It's great to see that.
and if it depends on who they play, but my challenge to the fans, okay, and I'm looking straight to you, okay, is last year you guys chanted Marner's leaving and Matthews balding, and I need it to be in that same vicinity for round one. I don't know who on Carolina you can kind of gripe with, but I want something like this, okay? Because that was hilarious, and I really enjoyed that. That was really funny. And they were
That's
right
very
about
funny.
people, I guess.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
See, my answer to them with the balding comment is grass doesn't grow on a busy street. So that's what I would say.
And you know what?
I have
Matthews,
experience with that.
yep. I forgot who my audience of one was, but yeah, no. But I just love it when it's creative, right? Like, I remember the Jets once when Ovi came to town as a followed them for a long time. They said Crosby's better, and I thought that was hilarious when Ovechkin played.
One of the most amazing one was Parise versus Crosby. Sid's first game, I believe, was in New Jersey, and the fans in Jersey were ripping Sid, and they were pumping Zach because they had both gone to Shattuck St. Mary's. Zach had gone first, and then Sid was after. Zach, I think, was a 17th pick overall. Sid was a first pick overall. One was in the 03 draft. One was in the 05 draft. But because Zach, they had the nuclear winter of 04, 05, Zach comes into the league in 05, 06, the same year as Sid. So, yeah, it was I was
funny.
doing a lot of games back then.
Yeah.
And that's what one of the things I remember is the fans in Jersey, which outside of Ranger games or Philly games, the fans in Jersey don't really pick on the opposition, but they went after Sid by good.
Yeah,
and I think with an 18-year-old, it could be a little bit humbling.
For sure. Yeah. No, it definitely would. And, I was just thinking of like all the Alfie chants that used to reign in this.
Toronto, they had him down.
Well, that too, right? And I just thinking of the goal, that Sanderson breakaway, like Green, I asked him about it. He's like, that's Alfie. That's a set play. And I posted it, and everyone's like, "Praise be Alfie" from people online and stuff, which I always find funny. Cool. But I really like how Green just maybe has incorporated his staff, right? Baumgartner's been great with the defense. Yo's been great with the PK, the power play. Like, they're all humming, and you can tell that he delineates to the people, to his assistant coaches, which I always think is the best way to coach. So I think Travis Green deserves a lot of credit, and you might be seeing something from me with Green in the next week or two.
Do you know why that's such a good thing, what you just said? I'll tell you why. I learned this from Bob Johnson a long time ago because I was really young when I worked for him. And he used to say, "You got the team today." And I'd be like, "Coach, I don't think that's a priority." He goes, "Yeah, it is." And I'd say, "Why?" He says, "I don't want them tired of my voice. And if you come in, they're going to think it's a big deal because I'm letting you do this. So never forget that." And it was really smart. And I always thought of that. And I always, wherever I worked, I always try to make sure that other people had big say in terms of what they were doing, because you don't need to be protective and guard your turf. You need to share. It's really important, especially if you trust the people you work with. But here's a question I have for you. Have you ever, Alex, spoken to Travis Green about his major influences as a coach?
I
Who
haven't,
influenced him?
He's hasn't mentioned anyone briefly, but I need to ask him about Al Arbor and some of Pat
Would be
Quinn.
good. I'd ask him about the late Pat Quinn.
Yeah,
because he played very well for Pat in Toronto. He played very well for Al. He played with Brian Mullen and Brad Delgarno. It was a really good checking line. I remember like it was yesterday because I was coaching then. But I would ask him, because I saw him play one of his first pro games. It was in, believe it or not, in Troy, New York. He played for the Capital District Islanders. And in the American Hockey League, that's where the Islanders farm team was. And Travis had just turned pro. And his coach was Butchie Goring. And at that time, Butch was a legend in hockey because of how well he played for the Islanders and all those Stanley Cups and the way he fit on those teams. And he was perceived as this hockey savant. And, he had been a head coach in Boston. People forget that. He was a head coach of the Boston Bruins. Butchie was. I would ask him how much he learned from Butchie.
Okay.
Back then, Butchie had a lot of stuff going on in a good way. He really did. And I've always admired Butch so much. And I've had, especially when I was doing, I was a young coach and he was just starting on TV. Because remember, Eddie Westfall, we're going back in time now. Eddie Westfall used to be the color commentator for the Islanders. And he was really good at it for a long time. And then he started to phase himself out because he's getting older and he liked to golf and be in Florida. And he did. I think he's still there. But Butchie would come in and I would have these amazing discussions with him. And it was all hockey related. I'd be curious to hear what Travis would say about, you can even say, hey, you played for the Capital District Islanders, and see what his reaction would be.
I definitely have not been lining up an interview with Travis Green for months. I definitely have not been doing that. That's all I'll say. So this gives me fodder. I'll just say that. So I appreciate it, Pierre. Just before I let you go, because I know you're in a rush a little bit.
I'm not going to lie to you. I just want everybody to know, like, I love doing the show and I would stay longer. I got a Hockey Hall of Fame selection committee meeting. I have to be on the call. Not yet. I still got a couple minutes, but I just want everybody to know I'm not ditching it. And Alex knows I'm not ditching it. I got to do this call.
We are in the presence of the Hall of Fame today. And I think there's a couple Senators that will be in the Hall one day. Just your last thoughts just on the win and kind of this team moving forward.
They got to feel good about themselves. You got a Florida Panther team that's coming in the next game that gave Montreal all they could handle that tonight. Now, Montreal didn't play particularly well, but they still found a way to win. And Florida's going to come in there, and these guys are fighting for jobs. Paul Maurice is coaching his tail off. He's still working hard. His staff is working hard. Whether it's Sylvain Lefebvre, Jamie Compan, Tuomo Rutu, their staff, they're not mailing this in, which a lot of people say, oh, yeah, look at all the injuries. It's just crazy. So you got a lot of young guys that want to earn respect around the league, and this is an opportunity for them to do it. So this will be far from a gimme the next game, but I would say this: I really admire how aggressive Travis is coaching. I really admire the way Jake has come in and helped this team a lot. And Brady did what he was supposed to do last night, and you need that from Brady. Let's say you play 10 games, you need that 7 out of 10 games from Brady. You do, and if you do, you got a superstar player. That's what you have.
They're all ramping up at the right time, and the Sens magic number for the playoffs is 6. So that means if they go,
that could change fast too, as you know. Like a loss by one team and a win by another team, or it changes. That's
like they could clinch on Saturday.
Yeah,
and they could obviously clinch by the end of Sunday as well. So
let me ask you a question before we go. I still got a couple minutes. What are you doing if you're Detroit? No, seriously. What are you doing? They
have a lot of good players, but they have only maybe Seider, Edvinson, Raymond, DeBrincat, Larkin, and it kind of falls off from there. Like Kane's still.
How did this happen? Do you know that in December they were in first place in the Atlantic Division?
They were first place in the East on January 24th.
So I'm just saying, but how did this happen?
Okay. I know I'm the analytics guy. Their analytics have not been very good for a long time. John Gibson was saving their bacon, and I think that came down to earth a little bit. They got injured, like Larkin got hurt too, right?
Larkin and Kopp injury, but that was 2.5 weeks. That's not, 6 weeks.
I just don't think they're that good of a team. And I don't know. I just I think when they were at the top, there was 2 games, we were talking about this with some of the media. There was 2 games where Detroit came into Ottawa the past 2 months. One was in January, one was in March. Ottawa should have won those games 6-2, 4-1.
Right.
And John Gibson just stole the game.
I remember. I actually remember these. Yeah.
Right. And I'm just thinking, I don't love this team. I don't know how they're first or winning all these games. And they have a lot of really good shooters. They've gone quiet a little bit too. I don't love their depth forwards, really. So I just think they have one great pair, Seider, Edvinsson, falls off from there. Outside of their big guys, if they don't get power play goals, they don't really create that much at 5-on-5. And Gibson has come down to earth, and that's my explanation.
Hey,
so
I'm just going to touch on one thing you said, then I got to go. They got a guy, Elmer Soderblom, who they traded to Pittsburgh. He's fit in really well in Pittsburgh. I don't know how they didn't think he could fit in. And he's 6'7" and he can score. I don't get why you give players like that away, especially within the conference. This is there are 2 things that happened this year that I have a real hard time understanding. And then I'll let you go. Sorry for being long-winded, but I'm into it. So Chinakhov goes from Columbus to Pittsburgh. What? What are you doing? And then the big Soderblom goes from Detroit to freaking Pittsburgh. Why? What? Don't, if you want to trade the guy, fine, but don't put him there. I want Pittsburgh to win for reasons. 1, because I'm proud of my affiliation with the team. And 2, I do all their pregame shows on radio. And I think the world of the city, and I love their fans. It's kind of like Ottawa for me. What are teams doing? Can you explain that to me?
Old head GMs. What? I didn't say that. I don't get some of these teams just giving away talent, especially when you're in a hunt and you need, I always think about it. If you're a good team, why are you giving away good players for free or for nothing? You need, there's going to be injuries. There's going to be look at the Sens. All of a sudden, now you really want, Tyler Clevin or all of a sudden those guys are in bigger roles because injuries happen in an 82-game season. So if you just gave away, even Nick Jensen, he got hurt in the end. But my point being is you need depth, especially if you want to be good. And I don't know how Steve, no shade to him, Ottawa guy, but Steve Yzerman, you have been in charge of this for so long and you're not making the play. It's not like you have no finances at your back. You just made a bunch of weird signings, paying Sherratt, Comper. I love Kopp, but he's a decent player, but you kind of overpaid for him. I just don't like that team. And the thing is, they missed on a lot of their picks outside of Seider and Raymond. They haven't been winning those draft picks. And you look at the Sens, they absolutely nailed their top.
Well, the 2020, so they're going to live off the 2020 draft until 2032. That's what they will, unless some guys choose to defect, but I don't think they will. With Ridley, with Tyler, with with Jake, with Timmy, those are 4 impact.
But that's you see last night. That is the 2018. That's 2018 and 2020.
Yeah,
right?
you're living off of but 2020, you got 4 impact players from one draft. That's cuckoo.
Yeah.
All right, I got to run.
Okay, thanks everyone for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon. And looks like the Sens are heading to the playoffs, so this should be fun.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Sens Spotlight on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.